What's up, my fellow adult collector? Welcome to Civilian Collectibles. In this video, I'll be discussing Storm Collectibles' Raiden figure based on his appearance in Mortal Kombat 2. This is pretty similar to his appearance in Mortal Kombat 1, but with the blue tunic added over it, and this overall style does continue forward throughout the franchise. Also, there is a con exclusive version of this figure where the tunic is red instead of blue. If you've been following my content for a while now, then you may notice that this is my first ever full 4K resolution review. However, if this is your first time on my channel, hi, my name is Seville, and here I'd like to discuss action figures and other collectibles based on my favorite movies, TV shows, and video games. If you find this video enjoyable or informative, please give me a thumbs up, don't forget to subscribe, and hit that notification bell. As usual, I'll start this off with a good, slow up and down look with both the front and back of Raiden. At first glance, it just looks absolutely awesome, a nearly perfect recreation of the video game sprites. Unfortunately, as you get a little closer in, it becomes a bit more obvious that you can't quite call it flawless. In the neck area, where the black is painted over the primary white color, there's starting to be some chips and fades. That, and the lines that are there, aren't quite as smooth as I expect Storm to usually be. When it's on your shelf at a distance, it probably wouldn't be that noticeable, but here up close, it most certainly is. Both the neckline and the blue tunic use that soft rubber material that Storm is known for, and those are the parts that are flaking a little bit. The arms and legs are all solid pieces, and are mostly sculpted in that main white color. Unlike the arms though, the legs do have a bit of a gray wash over them to give them a more dirty look. On the plus side though, when it comes to Raiden's signature hat, it looks great. It's pretty much a perfectly captured replica of the original hat itself, and it does have a chin strap to help hold it in place. Moving down the back of the body, it is pretty straightforward with all the details of the front carrying over to the backside. So, I started messing around with the sash around his waist, thinking it'd come off pretty easily and I might be able to take off the tunic. Unfortunately, the loops that hold the sash together broke. Both of them. The loops are made of a really thin rubber. On other figures that have some sort of sash or belt, the loops are pretty thick and are designed to come apart pretty easily. That's been true for many characters from both Street Fighter and Tekken, such as Ryu or Heihachi. I was gonna try to fix it, but it's just so thin and small that I decided it would be better to just go steal an elastic waistband off one of the NECA foot soldiers. So, that's what my Raiden has for a belt now. Unfortunately, all that wrangling around did cause some of the blue of the tunic to start chipping away further. Therefore, if nothing else, Raiden definitely has some QC issues. Moving on to accessories, Raiden does get two alternate heads. This is the default one that's been on the whole time, with a more neutral face. Then, we have a teeth-gritting angry face, and finally, a yelling face. Between the three, I do prefer the more neutral face, but it's good to have the other options. There's also plenty of extra hands that can be swapped out as well. The default ones are these closed fists. Next, we have what's typically referred to as karate chop hands. Then after that, we have two-finger death poke hands. The third one is a semi-open palm expressive hand. And finally, a totally open palm expressive hand. This set is also used for holding some of the separated lightning effects, which, when coupled with the exploding head, makes for a pretty gruesome fatality scene. Raiden does actually have one other set of hands, this time with the lightning actually being built into it, but because of that, they aren't made of that rubber material that the other hands are all made out of, so they're really hard to take on and off the pegs. Now, for a quick look at Raiden's articulation. It is pretty typical for a Storm Collectibles figure. The head and neck are on a double ball peg, which gives it a great range of motion front to back, up and down, as well as tilting sideways. The shoulders can spin all the way around, as well as move outward, plus there are butterfly joints for more front to back motion as well. The biceps do have full rotation, the elbows are double jointed, and the wrists are on the typical ball pegs. The torso also seems to be on that typical ball peg system, making for a good range of leaning back, frontwards, and some rotation. The hips can spread out so far that he's almost kicking straight up and down, and yes, Raiden is holding this super kick pose entirely on his own. Kicking front to back though, doesn't do quite as well. Beyond that though, the hips do have some rotation, the knees are double jointed, the ankles do have a full range of pivot motion, plus there's a toe joint. Next, I do want to show a quick comparison of the McFarlane Toys version of Raiden. Obviously, these are meant to be two very different levels in quality, but the McFarlane Toys version does still work pretty well next to Storm Collectibles. I really don't see any reason why they couldn't be side by side on a shelf if you wanted both versions of the character. Next up, before I get to Raiden's final score, and while I'm on the subject of Storm Collectibles, I do want to have a quick showing of Sektor. The first of the Cyborg Ninjas that I got last year was Cyrax, so I did do a complete in-depth review of that figure. Later on, I did include Smoke in another review, so now it's just Sektor that's left to finish off the trio. First, I will give Sektor the same treatment of having a good, slow up and down look at both the front and back. Now, of course, Sektor does use the exact same body sculpt as both Cyrax and Smoke, thus, the primary difference between them all would be the color that defines the character. For Sektor, that color is a strong candy apple red. Going into this, let me just clarify that I have owned Sektor for about 3 or 4 months now, at least. In that time frame, I have noticed a degeneration of sorts that is not present on the other two cyborgs. Any of the colored parts that are more rubber than plastic, such as the shoulder pads and the belt flaps, have begun to fade. In fact, the shoulder pads are really just wrapped around from the back armor, so that whole piece is fading. Beyond that, every solid red piece still looks just as good and shiny as it did the day I pulled it out of the package. Other than the colors, the real thing that sets the Cyborg Ninjas apart are the accessories. Of course, Sektor does get the same complete set of alternate hands, but for him specifically, he gets this missile that can either have the flame attached to the end or be attached to the smoke effect. Said smoke effect can then be attached to the inside of Sektor's chest to make it look like it's shooting out the compartment. Then, the even larger thing that can be attached to his chest is his fatality compactor machine that somehow comes out of him. In the package, this whole thing is separated into different pieces, so it does need to be put together. Once that is done, each platform can be moved up and down the rail, plus they both have telescoping parts on the inside. Being able to adjust it all so much makes it to where you can stick just about any figure you want in there to recreate the fatality scene. And if you've been on this line for a while, then you should have plenty of parts to finish off the fatality sequence. Before I'm done with Sektor, I do want to go ahead and bring out Cyrax and Smoke just so you can see all 3 of them standing together. With them all side by side, you might have a better understanding of what I was talking about earlier with the fading colors. Because of that, and just the fact that Sektor obviously reuses the same body sculpt, if I were to give it a full review, it would probably be an 8 out of 10. With that said though, it is now time to get Raiden back in front of the camera. Just real quick, I do want to mention that since my last review video, I have altered and added specifics to my review process. In fact, I do have a full video that details all of that out that can be seen at the end of this video. With that said, I will now run this Storm Collectibles Raiden through my guidelines for a complete and fair review. This is a brand new sculpt that is highly detailed and incredibly accurate to this interpretation of the character. It is in scale with the rest of the line, balances really well, and it does have more than 25 points of articulation. It certainly includes plenty of accessories, it is still readily available on most online stores, and is priced fair as well. So, the only real problem Raiden has is the quality control issues, therefore making it a 9 out of 10 star rating, meaning it is outstanding and still one of the best of the year. When I first pulled Raiden out of the package, I really wanted to be able to give it a flawless 10 out of 10 star rating, but that just ended up not being the case. However, maybe it's just mine. Maybe there are others out there that are in better condition, and I just happen to get a bad one. Either way, if you're a Raiden fan, if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, if you've been getting this line all along, I highly recommend adding this figure to your collection.